Some people enter culture like explosions, loud and impossible to ignore. Keanu Reeves arrived differently, like a steady breath that people didn't realize they needed until it was already there. For more than 5 decades, he has walked through Hollywood without ever seeming owned by it. His films earned billions. His face became iconic, yet his spirit remained strangely untouched by fame's hunger. Audiences saw him become a cyber philosopher in The Matrix, a man of grief and precision in John Wick, and countless other figures who carried silence as power. But beyond the screen, people sensed something rarer, a decency that didn't perform. He never chased myth, yet myth formed around him anyway. In a culture obsessed with dominance, he modeled gentleness without apology. In a world addicted to spectacle, he embodied restraint. Keanu Reeves became proof that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it listens, sometimes it endures, and sometimes, without ever asking for recognition, it quietly reminds millions that kindness is not naive, but brave. A childhood shaped by absence and motion. Keanu Charles Reeves was born on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, a city balanced between beauty and instability. His name, meaning cool breeze over the mountains in Hawaiian, felt like a wish for calm rather than a description of reality. When he was very young, his father disappeared from his life, leaving behind silence instead of guidance. That absence shaped more than memory. It shaped identity. His mother, an artist and designer, did her best to keep life moving forward, which often meant moving at all. Childhood became a sequence of cities and goodbyes, of temporary homes and relationships that never quite settled. Stability was something other families seemed to have. Keanu learned early that permanence could not be trusted. Raised partly by caregivers and relatives, he grew observant, inward, and self-reliant. School was difficult, complicated by learning challenges that made traditional success elusive. Yet through all the movement and uncertainty, he developed a quiet resilience, the kind built not by comfort, but by adaptation. Finding refuge. Where words fell short, for Keanu, school was not a place of ease or validation. The structure didn't fit him, and the expectations felt like walls instead of doors. Words on a page often refused to cooperate, and frequent school changes made belonging temporary at best. But amid that instability, he found two unexpected refuges: ice hockey and the stage. As a hockey goalie, he learned a role that felt instinctive, standing firm, absorbing impact, protecting others from loss. It wasn't about glory, it was about responsibility. Theater offered something different, but equally vital. On stage, he could step into other lives, other emotions, and briefly set down his own confusion. Acting wasn't about fame, it was about breathing. It gave shape to feelings he couldn't always explain and allowed vulnerability to become strength. Those early experiences taught him something that stayed for life, that identity doesn't always come from who you are, but from what you choose to carry, and how you carry it. Hollywood without illusions. At 17, Keanu made a choice that terrified and liberated him. He left school and moved toward uncertainty. Los Angeles wasn't waiting for him with open arms. It offered long lines, small roles, rejection, and jobs that barely paid the bills. He slept where he could, ate simply, and learned patience the hard way. Early film work came slowly, often unnoticed, but he treated each opportunity as practice rather than proof. When Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure finally connected with audiences, it wasn't because of polish, but sincerity. People responded to his openness, to a character who felt unguarded instead of ironic. Success followed in waves, Point Break speed, but Keanu never seemed intoxicated by it. He worked hard, trained harder, and stayed oddly detached from the machinery of celebrity. Fame arrived, but it never fully moved in. He remained someone passing through, grateful, cautious, and quietly aware that applause is temporary. Friendship, loss, and the weight of memory. One of the most defining relationships in Keanu's life was his friendship with fellow actor River Phoenix. They connected not over ambition, but over sensitivity, creativity, and a shared discomfort with Hollywood's excess. Their bond felt rare, built on mutual respect rather than competition. When River's life ended, suddenly and tragically, Keanu was left stunned by how quickly a future could vanish. The loss cut deep, not because of publicity, but because it shattered something personal and irreplaceable. Grief didn't make him louder. It made him quieter. He kept working, not to escape pain, but to survive it. He learned that mourning doesn't have an expiration date, and that carrying loss is not the same as healing from it. This was not a single wound, but the beginning of a long education in sorrow, one that would teach him compassion, restraint, and a profound understanding of how fragile every moment truly is: love, grief, and unimaginable silence. Later, love entered Keanu's life in a way that felt grounding and hopeful. He dreamed of family, of a future that finally felt still. But life, once again, had other plans. The loss of a child before she could even breathe is a grief without language, a silence that echoes forever. It is not just the loss of life, but the loss of every imagined tomorrow. That experience reshaped him. Love did not disappear, but it changed form, carrying sorrow alongside tenderness. When tragedy followed again soon after, it reinforced a truth Keanu would come to understand deeply: that love and pain are not opposites, but companions. He didn't turn bitter. He didn't harden. Instead, he learned to live gently with what could not be fixed. Some people collapse under grief. Others become cruel. Keanu became quieter, more attentive, and more aware of the invisible battles everyone carries, choosing compassion over collapse. During these years, Keanu also devoted himself to family, particularly to supporting his sister during a long and difficult illness. Success could have pulled him away, but instead it became a resource he shared. He adjusted his life around care, presence, and patience. Money, to him, was never about display. It was about relief, about making pain a little lighter where possible. This philosophy extended beyond family. He gave generously to research, to crews, to people whose names never appeared in headlines. Often he did so without attaching his identity to the act. He understood something many never learn: that generosity loses its purity when it seeks recognition. Work continued. The Matrix changed cinema. John Wick redefined action, but none of it replaced his values. Fame became a tool, not a destination. Through service, not spectacle, he rebuilt meaning, not by erasing grief, but by letting compassion grow from it. A quiet love, a shared life. In time, companionship returned, not as drama, but as steadiness. With Alexandra Grant, Keanu found a relationship rooted in respect, creativity, and patience. There was no performance, no rush to define it for the world. They built friendship first, sharing ideas, art, and conversation long before public attention followed. Their connection showed something rarely celebrated: that love later in life can be gentle, grounded, and whole. Neither was looking to be saved. They chose to walk together, aware of scars, without trying to rewrite the past. Their presence together feels calm, almost ordinary, and that is precisely its power. It suggests that healing doesn't mean forgetting, and happiness doesn't require spectacle. Sometimes it is simply finding someone who understands silence, who honors memory, and who knows that peace is not the absence of pain, but the ability to live alongside it with grace. The legacy of gentle strength. At 60, Keanu Reeves stands as an uncommon figure, immensely successful, yet deeply human. He lives modestly, moves through the world with curiosity rather than entitlement, and treats people, not as roles. His legacy isn't defined by box office numbers or iconic lines, but by the way he makes others feel seen. He has shown that masculinity can be tender, that success doesn't require cruelty, and that surviving hardship doesn't excuse hardness of heart. His life reminds us that kindness is not weakness, that grief can deepen empathy rather than destroy it, and that choosing compassion is a daily act of courage. If his story moves people, it's not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. He teaches us that being happy to be here is not naive, it's hard-won. And in a world that often rewards indifference, that may be the strongest legacy of all.